And that's it. Wayne will now lead us through the presentation.
Alrighty, thanks, Nick. Oh, no more blue. That's good.
Yeah, I fixed it. All right.
What was it?
Oh, I had to redo all the slides while you were talking. So I've completely rebuilt your presentation.
How about my Google tabs? Are they there too?
I don't know. I just cut and paste quick.
Okay, all right, very good. So a little introductory commentary first. This is a really different subject than all the other ones that we've had so far. And it's different in the sense that what we've been talking about is how you do it, right? How do you run the city? What are the important parts of it? All that sort of thing. But in my mind, that is not really, if not the, one of the most important questions. And that is, okay, well, we've been talking about this a little bit, sort of peripherally, but why do we want a city and how am I going to be involved more particularly? And this is something that I have literally been concerned with since I first chose a Master of Public Administration as my educational pursuit and career, and sort of the same thing in the Army. I served 21 years in the military because I was concerned. I was concerned about our community, our country. When I first went the MPA route instead of other courses of study, it was because I really felt like, hey, here's some place where I can have impact, and I can see the result of my work. Now, somehow, 30 plus years later, my idealism has survived relatively intact, and I still ponder and am really interested in these questions. And the good news is there are all kinds of ways for us to be involved and reasons for doing so. Bad news is, I guess, is sort of bad news is there's no cookie cutter way to approach this, and our efforts have to be sort of self-directed, organic. There's no way to really organize those except by sheer interest. I'm looking here at Brandy right now, who spent so much time and effort and interest. Shanna, Nick, practically everybody in here in one way or another. So I'm going to talk about three sorts of things. Why do I want to be involved? How can I engage with the city? I forgot a bullet here because I started this presentation like 3 different times, and I only finished these slides like an hour or two ago after I changed a bunch of times. But the other thing we're going to talk about is why the community itself, what's important about the community. So Nick, can we go to the next one? You really did take all my bullets and put them on different slides.
Yeah, I did.
I just noticed not only was the blue gone, the background's gone.
It's like I'm stripping.
Well, when he
Okay.
gave them over to me, they were so dark you couldn't read them. So
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. I used the same template that I did on the revenue taxation one, but sure enough, that's right. Okay, it affects your daily life, the big sleep. I did not misspell that word. I did that on purpose. I'm going to tell you why. I've got a story. I'm going to read it to you. This comes from the New Haven Ancient Colony Records, New Haven, Connecticut. At a court held at New Haven, 6th of October, 1646. That's right, 1646. And we're talking about municipal. Close. And I'm going to tell you why here in a moment. Mr. William Tuttle and Jeremy Watts complained of for sleeping at the watch house. Mr. Tuttle said he was overcome, and Jeremy, being sentinel, sat down on the threshold and slept, but confesseth his fault and hopes it shall be the last. Mr. Tuttle was fined 2 shillings 6 pence, and Jeremy Watts was fined 5 shillings. Ye court desiring it may be a warning to them both. Now, I didn't make this up. This is a real court proceeding from 1646. And Mr. William Tuttle is my 9th great grandfather. So it sort of was there. And for whatever reason, so I'm kind of into family history. And for whatever reason, literally, I mean, I found this little story probably 4 decades ago. And it has stuck with me through all of those years in terms of why and how do we do the things that we do for communities. And, when I think about that at that time, why was William Tuttle and what was the guy's name again? Jeremy Watts why were they in this watch house at all? Well, because there's no police, there's no army. There's some kind of a militia. You read some more of these records and you find people getting inspected and getting fined because their ammunition wasn't ready and their musket cleaning tools were bad and, that sort of thing. Point being that, man, you did what you had to do when you have a community and you were committed to that community, which these people were obviously very early on, settlement of the country. And so what's the connection again? Well, obviously the connection is this really does affect your daily life. Not in the way that it did these guys. None of us have to go and pull a guard duty shift at the watch house for the town to make sure the town doesn't burn down or nothing's getting broken into or whatever. But it does affect our daily life, right? In all kinds of ways. Personal finances, I didn't even add anything on there. Obviously, we all pay taxes in a variety of different ways, and it's our money that's being used and spent for both the creation of, the decision of, and the execution of these services out there as we are citizens within a particular community. Your viewpoint matters. Okay. You may be wondering, what's the rule of Jim and Mike? Well, I use the rule of Jim and Mike to kind of contrast with if you don't make your voice heard, how your voice gets neglected, or the overall impression of the elected officials gets worked a little bit. So, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call these two gentlemen, Jim and Mike. Jim and Mike represent a bunch of different people that I've seen or heard over the years, but these are guys who will come to every single city council meeting there is. And they will make their opinions known and heard vociferously, whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, or whatever. And I used to watch these guys in all the meetings I was at, and I would say to myself, there are 99% of the people in this community not making their voices heard, not having their viewpoint expressed. And these two guys are basically taking all the air in the room and being heard. Not always necessarily having their viewpoints taken action on, but definitely being heard and definitely influenced what those elected officials were doing. So you're interested because your viewpoint matters. And you don't want Jim and Mike representing it, I'm telling you. If we have time, this doesn't take too long, I'll tell some more Jim and Mike stories, but we got a bunch of them. We need to be watchdogs. Okay, I got a little quote from the Federalist Papers here. It was a thing hardly to be expected that in a popular revolution, the minds of men should stop at that happy mean, which marks the salutary boundary between power and privilege. Now, there's one of the forefathers, quote it right there, saying you got to worry about people's rights and the people that are representing them, the ones that hold the power, the ones who are supposed to have the privilege of the community in which they dwell. And of course, that's again one of the main points we've been making through this whole discussion, right? Is that the closer to the people that the representation is, then the better control or at least influence you're going to have on that situation. Okay, what else? Why am I interested? Legislative process at local level affects most and is where you have the most input. Again, that's kind of an obvious point, so I just wanted to make sure I noted it, but I don't think I need to go into detail. Service and involvement are an opportunity and enjoyable. All right, this is where I want to, if we can, show these tabs on Google Chrome. Do you have anything up? Can I like sort of guide you?
We can try that.
All right, so if you go to Google, just the browser, doesn't have to be Chrome, but that's one I use. And go to Google Maps. And I wanted to see Hell, Michigan. Anybody ever heard of Hell, Michigan?
How do you spell it? Just like it sounds?
H-E-L-L,
Okay.
H-E double hockey sticks, Michigan.
It's where health freezes over.
Where Hell finishes over. I saw, yeah, anybody else? Yes, ma'am, okay, that's right. I had heard of it, that's why I kind of thought of it for this presentation, but I didn't really know anything about it. So I went and I kind of looked it up, and interestingly, there's not kind of similarities between hell and our. It's this unincorporated area. It's kind of around a resort area. It's around 15 miles from Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you even sort of squint your eyes a little bit, it just looks like Eden. Where Highway 158 comes through, and there's the intersection with Ameren and the grocery store. So hell, it's not an actual city, like I said. It's a community like Eden Liberty is, and our whole valley, and obviously, the people who have worked there, it's pretty funny. There's a pun like every sentence I do in here. The people that have worked and lived in hell have really kind of capitalized on this, not a way I would like to, which is kind of my point. I think it would be great if we all could have the influence on what our entity's name and identity is, right? But so I thought about the places that are around us here. What do we got? We got Liberty, we got Eden, we've got Paradise right over the mountains. How did we end up that way as opposed to hell? Which I'm going to tell you the story here in a minute. At least there's like 4 passing around, one of which I actually personally believe. So the second tab, or you could just go from there, from here to there, Nick, is the Wikipedia entry for hell, Michigan. So as he's pulling that up, I wanted to make another point that actually kind of emphasizes what I'm talking about. There's actually a subdivision here in hell that's named Satan's Hills.
Is it like the Iceland, Greenland? Like, if you call it hell, no one will come.
Well, interestingly, they do all of this like promotion of it, and they have like fun days in hell once a year. And all these different things. And I thought, I really admire the effort. It's not quite the theme I would personally like to go with if we incorporated our valley here, but there it is. Okay, now if you scroll up, down history. Oh, yeah, stop there for a sec, will you, Nick? Okay, so George Reeves, this dude who moves there from the Catskills in the 1830s, he founds pretty much the 4 businesses that are running there in hell. You got a distillery, he's got a racetrack, he's got a grist mill. So, the vitals. He gets older, he passes away, the businesses go away, but hell continues. The name is still there. So if you scroll down a little bit further, Nick, it shows there's apparently 4 competing theories of how the place was named.
By the way, I just got a text from Wayne Pyle. He sent us some slides that we need to show. I just got it now. No wonder I was stunned when you walk up.
You saw the email first, but not my text warning. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through all 4, and by the way, yes, obviously I'm drawing this point out, but I thought this topic would be fun to have a little bit of deeper overall presentation. The 4th place name theory is that soon after Michigan gained statehood, George Reeves, he's the business guy again, was asked what he thought the town he helped sell should be called, and replied, I don't care, you can name it hell for all I care. And it became official on October 13th, 1841. And it has stuck to this day. So that's obviously an example out of left field for the point, but the point is, we're going to be the ones that are going to be shaping what this community's history and character and, personally, I think there's a lot prettier subdivision names than Satan's Hills, but.
You do know we have Huntsville, Eden, and Liberty.
It's hell.
I never even thought of that. That's pretty awesome.
Junior high have capitalized on that, runners from hell.
That's what I've heard this, right? You guys have like t-shirts and stuff, right? Right. Okay, all right. Enough of that, Nick. Sorry. That was actually very well done. Having not even seen my. Thank you very much. Okay. So again, legislative process. You're not gonna let George Reeves and Nick and Mike, not Nick, you're Nick, Jim and Mike decide how this city's characters run, right? And in order to do that, you gotta be involved. Okay. Service involvement are an opportunity and enjoyable. Again, it's kind of obvious point. Yeah, I've already wasted, I should say wasted. I already took 20 minutes. going through this. Nick's gonna be giving me that you're still on slide one thing. Political accountability. Okay, it's kind of like the watchdogs, but really basically the point is, it's not just watching the elected officials. You've got political accountability to make things happen in your own community as well, right? Whether that is you choose to run as an official or volunteer or whatever. Okay, all right, I'm done with slide one. Any commentary?
Well, I just want to bring up, I think the reason why many of us are even here is because this community has stayed very, very aware of what is happening to us.
Mhm.
And it's due to a couple of folks who monitor all the sources of information and make it available to us. Because quite honestly, if we weren't watching and caring, then we wouldn't have pulled together and say, wait a minute, let's do something about this. So this is a very good example.
So again, a great point to something we talked about in the earlier presentations, which is we got so many advantages here in terms of exactly what Nick's talking about there that I've seen so many other communities not have, either in startup or in their existence, in terms of that care and that concern, that skill and that watching of what's happening in our community. Why would we not take this next logical step? In my mind, it's kind of a no-brainer. Okay, next slide.
Oops, is it not switching? It is not switching. Okay. This is PowerPoint for you.
Can almost remember it without the slide, but probably better with. Did I forget to change the heading?
Yes. It wasn't me.
That wasn't what I meant to do. No, I'm sure it was me. This was supposed to be basically not why am I interested, but what are the things about the valley that I'm interested in? And I was kind of hoping for more, if not actual discussion, which would be great, but just thought as we're going forward into the next weeks and months. Obviously, we know now we're going to have this vote. Hopefully it passes. Hopefully we're going to be trusted with the ability and the responsibility of starting our community here. So we'll see how it goes. But just a few things I thought about as I came. I'd like to hear some more names, but the character of the valley, especially for somebody, I've only been around since around 2007-ish. The quiet lifestyle of the valley, and hopefully being able to keep that not as quiet as it needs to be. Clean air, the dark skies, the recreational opportunities. For somebody like me who loves to do all kinds of outdoor things, this place really is sort of paradise. I think about it in comparison to some of the other so-called, I don't know, I shouldn't put it that way. They are actual resort areas in the state, but it is amazing.
With the whole package.
Yeah, it's the whole package. Yeah, great way to put it. Development. So we're interested, not necessarily because we want to encourage it or even necessarily discourage it, but we just want it to be right? We want it to be fitting the character of the valley that we have here. Traffic, amenities. These are things that we can influence. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Nick. That one's a pretty quick one. It was really just supposed to have descriptors to help with this. So how do I help? There's lots of ways to do it. Elected office, obviously, and not to be recruiting here, not my task. I'm not put on that, but just for the point of thinking about it, for all of us, we are really going to be looking for those candidates that are going to lead this valley in a way that is going to respect everybody. It's a tough job. I have watched multiple iterations. I think I worked for 7 mayors over my career and multiple iterations of councils. And it is hard. And these people come in and, they're probably expert in one particular thing, but they've never been politicians before. They come in, I just want to serve my community. And by and large, they've done a really pretty good job, especially again at the municipal level. But we need really good people that are doing, people that can see all sides of a question and people that can effectively deal with folks that come in. So again, to the I don't know why I'm stuck on this now, but the Jim and Mike rule, not the Nick and Mike rule, the Jim and Mike of the world as they come in. Boards and commissions. So let's name a few of them that there are, right? You got Plan Commission, Board of Adjustments, those are the development related side. You have multiple other ones that you might or may not want. There's in lots of cities, you'll have things like a police advisory board or a community service committee, you know, things like that. Committee expertise. One of the great things that is I just talked about it a little bit here in the Valley is, yeah, we're gonna, if this passes, we're gonna have a small elected official group. They're gonna be part-time. There's not gonna be a lot of staff. So we're gonna need help in some of these things. I think the Ogden Valley general plan, again, is a great example of it. How do we re-examine that? Do we tweak it? How do we get it into adoption? You know, that's those sorts of things. And we're going to need these committees of folks to help with that from an expertise standpoint. Public opinion. Now, what I mean by that really is participation. And once again, we've got a lot of tools that maybe 20, 30 years ago didn't exist. Maybe sometimes we wish they still didn't exist, but they are there for our use. Social media is one of the things I'm thinking about. And again, remember the Jim and Mike rule, be nice, be respectful. Ogden Valley News, what a great resource it is and what a great job it does for the Valley. And I don't say that only because I'm exposed to it and I read it every week and I see it, but because I'm familiar with lots of community newspapers, and they are extremely valuable tools for making the residents aware of what's going on in the Valley and how we can participate. One of my favorites, a little tangent on that. So back in Missouri, where I have my other home, they still do the police blotter. Everybody remember the police blotter?
What is that?
So the police blotter is when you get busted for DUI, your name's gonna be in the paper. Well, whatever.
The public shaming, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of harsh in this day and age, but when you think back to William Tuttle getting fined for falling asleep and he didn't end up in the stocks, just being on the police blotter, it seems like fairly calm, right? Anyway, back off the tangent, just the fact that the paper is such a great resource. Oh, you know what? I've been standing over here the whole time thinking the camera was right there. Attend meetings or at least be aware of the discussion. So I'll tell you this. I say you should attend the council meetings. I know you're not going to do it.
Not true. Not true. I think the fact that we would have them up here in the valley
Yeah.
will make a huge difference.
Okay, well, we should set up a pool and we should start having people buy, numbers on how many people on an average basis are
Are
going
gonna
to
come.
come to the meeting.
That's careful.
Pick the spot, yeah. My experience, now these are with older towns, so granted, I could be totally wrong. But you were lucky to have 2 or 3 people, unless there was some controversial issue, and then you'd have a lot of people. But my point being, yeah, attend those meetings, because that may not be the most fascinating thing to read about what the chip seal project is gonna look like next year, but it's important. You wanna know, right, where the roads are gonna be. Or if you can't be at the meetings, at least be aware of the discussion in the ways that we already talked about, with the paper, watch the meeting on Zoom. Hopefully that's something that we'll be able to do, is take advantage of technology to really leverage what resources we have in the community, right? And then, of course, volunteers with city or affiliated entities, community service organizations don't even have to be specifically connected to the city, right? Ogden Valley Land Trust was one I was just looking at again today, and I know a few members of the board, a few people that are on the board. What a great way to shape that, Shannon being one of us right here. Yeah. What a great way to shape what our community's future could look like using tools that are a little less conventional than normal, right? But in order to do that, you got to be aware of it. We have to be aware that those opportunities and possibilities are out there. Okay. Mark, yes.
But before we go, your opinion, I don't need facts or anything else, but does compensation equate with better council and mayors? I mean,
No,
Huntsville
not really.
get paid a lot,
Yeah.
and I think Huntsville gets paid a little.
Right.
We're used to that number, but I
Right.
mean, your opinion.
On the elected side, no, I don't think it really matters, especially in the smaller municipalities. Staff side, it can mean a lot. You go out and contract with an attorney, or you get that planner that you're really looking for, that you really want to be expert. Yeah, that side does matter more. And that's, that honestly, that is gonna be one of the challenges of a new community. Not only are staff expensive, but in the world we live in, especially over the last few years, have gotten more expensive and they're harder to find. But it's just something to be aware of. Great question. Okay, other questions? Took me 20 minutes to get through that first slide. 10 to get through the last two. I'm actually done with my presentation. But again, yeah, I mean, really, again, there's not, oh, look, see, now my background showed up. Or no, you just switched the slide.
No, I left that one.
And it's not blue either. Anyway, again, I can't stand here and tell you from a community well-being standpoint, a formula for making that happen. I can stand here and tell you, yeah, I can look down the chart of accounts and tell you what the expense lines look like and where the revenue lines go and how to generally shape the future of the community. But we all sort of inherently know, right? The William Tuttles of the world, you got to stay awake while you're on watch. And I know Granddad, I know you did your job way more often than you did not. It's just that one time you got unlucky and you got caught in the court records for 400 years later. We're happy to see that now, right? But that really is what's going to be the most important part of this whole aspect of us. Jen.
I think, really, Ogden Valley, the community, the people who live here traditionally have been more engaged than most people in
I agree.
a lot of communities.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here now, is because trying to be engaged and not having your voice heard, or feeling like
Right.
so often it hasn't made a difference.
Right.
And it should. And you can do that for so many years before it's just enough's enough. And I think we've hit that tipping point where we do want to be engaged. We want our voice to make a difference. And now through the corporation, it's exciting that we will be able to do that.
Yeah. So, well, first, before I make another comment, any other thoughts like that? I thought that was great commentary. It led me to think, I know I didn't answer any real questions here tonight, but the fact that we have some technology and put this out there in Zoom, maybe we're cheerleading a little bit. Maybe that helps with the community effort over the next few months. And we're going to need that. I mean, my personal observation, not having been directly involved with all the vote gathering or the signature gathering, all the grunt work that had to take place to get us to where we are. I've seen a number of incorporations, and it feels to me like there's really pretty good momentum out there, just from the number of people who went and number of people who signed and how quickly that happened. So to me, that implies you got a lot of support out there. So we need to capitalize on. Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say that we have such a sense of community. So
Yeah.
many people love the valley, and events that have taken place over the years, Dyer's Woad, cleanups, different things, and then we can create more of them that really make us feel,
Right.
we have a
Involved.
vested interest. That,
Yeah,
yes,
vested.
we love the valley and we're gonna show it.
Perfect way to put it. Yep. Great. Okay. Should we end there? Instead of taking our usual 2 hours?
Unless you want to take some more questions.
Oh, I'll take, as long as there are. I even got one last sort of cautionary tale, funny story. It's not even a Jim and Mike. So back in Missouri, where I was talking about in the other local paper. So I spent a few months there at the beginning of the year, right after I retired. And they were going through this effort to get out of their county contract, this town of just less than 2,000 people, to provide police service to the sheriff. And the mayor and the council were talking about hiring a police force. And by what they meant by police force was, we're going to hire one person and get rid of the county contract, which gives them the service. Now, this seemed like a really dumb idea in my mind, but And the reason for that is obvious to everybody's here, just sheer numbers, right? How's one guy gonna cover all the shifts? And so I watched this discussion in the paper again for a few weeks, and I kind of really couldn't believe they were really gonna go through this. It just seemed like not the right thing to do. The sheriff was, formerly this town named Stockton had their own, police department with 4 or 5 people, and who became the sheriff was their police chief years before. They went away from that, contract with the county, same guy, still the sheriff. He's telling them, this seemed like a really great idea. Why do we want to do this? Anyway, they did do it. And the reason I bring it up as a story here is I never saw any public comment about it. I never saw any participation, question, and I can almost guarantee here in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they're gonna be right back where they were. And have to start all over again with putting that service together. And that is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where if we're not involved as a community, what can happen to you if you're not watching? And who knows, maybe I'm wrong, maybe that'll work out just great. But it almost feels like great grandpa Tuttle is watching the watch house again with this one guy. You know, how many hours and days a week are they gonna be able to keep him awake on the job? Okay, anyway, that's it. Last story from there. I'll let everybody go. Yes, Jan.
I'd like to pose this question to everybody that's here. But there used to be a reporter at the Standard Examiner, Tim Vanderneck, I believe his name. And we would get press in the Standard Examiner, for instance, when the Ogden Valley Planning Commission would deny, or, against having a certain development, but then the county commissioners would overrule it. And Tim would report that. Now, I know they didn't like that, but he would report that. When we had issues with short-term rentals up here in the valley, Tim had several articles he published. Since Tim is no longer at the Standard Examiner, there has been nothing in that newspaper about what's going on up here in our valley. I don't know who we can contact. As a matter of fact, there was a rather monumental Weaver County Commissioners meeting in December about a certain development that was denied by our planning commission. And the number of people that showed up for that meeting was phenomenal, and it was very clear the majority of the people there were against it. And it was amazing how that was handled. I think they used a math system from Mars to figure out, oh, no, the majority said they want it, which was not the case. But there was nothing in the newspaper. There has been nothing. So does anybody have any contacts now at the Standard Examiner? I mean, how, or do we go to the Salt Lake Tribune?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that, but that's a dynamic that I lived through in West Valley for literally, I don't know, the last 15 years I was there. It used to be, we had our own city beat reporter from the Trib and from the Deseret News that would come to all the meetings. But with journalism as an industry and how it has shaken out, there just aren't that many reporters anymore. So it's not that somebody replaced, what was his name again, Tom?
Tim Vanderneck.
Right, and just doesn't care about Ogden Valley. I almost can guarantee you, they're just not there. Which once again makes it even more important. It's a great point to bring up, Jan. And again, kind of goes to the Jim and Mike principle. Don't let Jim and Mike be determining your agenda, because that's who the elected officials can either think or claim represents the opinion of the community.
But even when Western Weaver County, when they tried to incorporate and they were not successful,
Yeah.
there was a huge article in the Standard Examiner about that. And I think the Standard Examiner may owe the residents of Weaver County writing about what's happening, Whoever money talks, yes.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Shannon,
I
do you
think
know?
they're just trying to keep their head above water.
Really?
As a newspaper, they don't have much.
They're not sending papers to the valley.
Yeah, their subscriptions have gone way down.
Anyway, this means again, well, we gotta be more aware and utilize our other resources, other ways to do it. I'll give that some thought too. Maybe I know somebody. I used to know people at Standard and Command.
But you know, they don't even have letters to the editor anymore.
They do.
Or do they? It's not every day though. No.
Okay, well, thank you all very
Tell us
much.
the Jimmy Mike story.
Yeah.
So we got people on the call. Let me just let people know, we got quite a few people joined late. Our next meeting, let me go ahead and share my screen here with you guys. Hopefully you're seeing this. So our next meeting is going to be these forms of government, which we've talked about in the past, which is scheduled for September 10th. We've just had a communicate or discussion in this room. We think that that's probably better that we move that date because it's also the date of the presidential debate. So please watch. We will post this on our website. We'll get it out in the newspaper and we'll send it out via email information, but the date of that will probably change. So, because it's a very important meeting, we really would like you to attend. And we have a number of guest speakers that will be there as well. So please try to keep an eye out for that and we'll try to move that around. So other than that, I think we're done. Thank you all for attending.